Hello, everyone. Welcome to our discussion today. Today, we'll be looking at the internal environment, right? So we'll be discussing internal environmental scanning. Last time, we looked at the external environmental scanning, and today we would narrow down to the internal environment. Our main objectives are to describe the resource-based view framework and its role in strategic analysis. We'll also identify core competencies as a source of competitive advantage, and then how to apply the SWOT analysis framework to assess internal and external factors that influence an organization, right? So we start with the resource-based view, or RBV. So the resource-based view basically focuses on an organization's internal resources as the primary source of competitive advantage. What this means is that the factors inside the organization or the factors within the organization are those that will make the organization stand out, or they are the factors that will let the organization be unique from every other organization in that industry. Okay. It suggests that resources must be valuable, they must be rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. All right. What this means is that if you would be competitive on the market, then the resources within your organization should be such that they are valuable. All right. They offer value. They are rare. They are not so common. It's difficult for people to access those same resources that you have within your firm. The resources should also be such that they cannot be imitated by your competitors or by other business organizations. And then they should also be such that it's difficult to substitute those resources. All right. That is the VRIN framework. It should be valuable, it should be rare, it should be inimitable, and non-substitutable. Okay, so the resource-based view focuses on three categories of resources. You have the tangible resources, the intangible resources, and then human resources. Okay, so the tangible resources comprise physical assets like equipment, machines, all right, the facility within which you operate, and then financial capital or financial resources. All right. Then you have the intangible resources like brand reputation, resources like patents, proprietary knowledge, and then culture. All right. All your trademarks and your trade secrets can be considered as intangible resources. Okay. And then you have the human resources, which comprise skills, expertise, and the creativity of your employees. All right. So the resource-based view focuses on tangible resources, intangible resources, as well as your human resources. All right. You also look at the core competencies within the organization. And the core competencies within the organization are unique capabilities that provide the organization or that provide your firm with a sustainable competitive advantage. Okay, and it's developed through the integration and coordination of all the resources you have. So you realize that the core competencies of an organization comprise of the resources within that organization. So you can look at the human resources, the tangible resources, and then the intangible resources, which together make up the core competencies of that organization. I hope this is clear. So the core competencies are developed through an integration or a coordination of the resources available. What this means is that your intangible resources, the tangible resources, and the human resources together will form the core competencies of that organization. Okay, so what are some of the characteristics of core competencies? Your core competencies, like we have said, the VRIN framework. It should be valuable, it should be rare, it should be difficult to imitate, and then it should be non-substitutable. All right. Your core competencies should create value for customers. It should be unique on the market. And then it should be protected by some complexity so that it will be difficult to imitate what you have as a core competence. All right. And then it should be such that it's easy to find alternatives for that core competence. So it should be non-substitutable, right? I believe that's okay for the resource-based view of an organization. Basically, with the resource-based view, you are looking at the resources within the organization that makes it competitive on the market. And these resources together form the core competencies of that organization. Okay. Then we now look at the SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool that is used by organizations to assess their internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as the external opportunities and threats in their operating environment, right? Remember that in our previous lessons, we have discussed the environment of every organization, and we said that there's the internal environment and the external environment, right? Today we are looking at the SWOT analysis as a tool that can help you to assess the internal and external environment. The SWOT analysis provides a structured framework for understanding the organization's current position, and it also helps the organization to formulate strategies that leverage the strengths, that address the weaknesses, capitalize on the opportunities, and then mitigate the threats of that organization. Okay. So we'll take each of the elements in the SWOT acronym and then discuss them. So the first one we look at are the strengths of the organization. The strengths are the internal attributes and resources that the organization possesses, which gives it a competitive advantage or distinctive capabilities on the market. All right. So some of the strengths that an organization can have are a strong brand reputation. You can think about skilled and motivated workforce. Okay, patented technology or intellectual property, efficient production processes, and high quality products or services. These can form the strengths of an organization, but they are the internal attributes that makes the organization competitive, or that show that the organization have some distinct capabilities on the market. Then we have the weaknesses. The weaknesses represent internal factors which hinder the organization's ability to achieve its objectives or compete effectively. Okay, so the weaknesses are opposites of the strengths. So the strengths focus on the resources that make the organization competitive on the market, whilst the weaknesses look at, or they represent, the internal factors which hinder or which prevent the organization from achieving its objectives. Okay, some of the weaknesses an organization can have are limited financial resources. They can have inadequate infrastructure or technology that is outdated. There can also be a situation where there is a poor employee morale or high employee turnover rates. Okay, there can also be lack of innovation within that organization or inefficient processes by the respective departments or sections or divisions in that organization. All right, and all of these can hinder that organization's ability to achieve its objectives or to compete effectively on the market. Then we look at the opportunities, right? Opportunities are the external factors or the external trends in the business environment that an organization can leverage to its advantage. So opportunities are out of the organization, or they can be found in the external environment of that organization. Okay, so some of the opportunities that can be available to organizations are, for example, the opportunity to expand into new markets or regions, the opportunity of emerging consumer trends and demands, technological advancements that open new possibilities, changes in regulations or industry standards, or strategic partnerships or collaborations. These are opportunities that the organization, or yes, they are factors in the environment that the organization can leverage on to its advantage. Okay, that is for the opportunities. Then finally, we have the threats. Okay, the threats are external factors or external challenges in the environment that can negatively impact the organization's performance or its viability. Okay, the threats are challenges or some external factors that can negatively affect the operations of the company or the performance of the company or even its viability on the market, right? So some of the threats that an organization can be faced with are intense competition. You can have economic downturns or recessions. You can have regulatory changes that increase compliance costs. You can also have a rapid technological disruption or natural disasters or geopolitical instability. Okay, so these are some threats that an organization can be faced with. So now that we understand what the SWOT is, which comprise the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats, how then do we conduct a SWOT analysis for an organization? The first step is to gather information. All right, you gather information from the internal environment as well as the external environment. Remember, we said that the SWOT can help to analyze both the internal and then the external environment. So the strengths and the weaknesses can help you to analyze the internal environment. And then the opportunities and threats will help you to analyze the external environment. So the first thing to do in conducting a SWOT analysis is to gather relevant information as it relates to your organization, both internally and externally. And then you go ahead to create a SWOT matrix. In a short while, we'll see how the SWOT matrix looks like. Okay, so you go ahead to create a SWOT matrix. And then after creating the SWOT matrix, and as you get exposed to the strengths and the weaknesses and the opportunities and threats of the organization, you move to the third step, which helps you to prioritize and analyze the various factors that you have identified. Remember that you may not be able to address all of the negative factors at once. You may not be able to try to go for all your opportunities at once. Okay, you may not be able to solve all your weaknesses in a day. Therefore, it's necessary to prioritize the various factors that you found out. And then as you prioritize them, you analyze and check what can be done, or you develop strategies that will help you to capitalize on your strengths, all right? And then work on your weaknesses, go for your opportunities, and then try to mitigate your threats. Okay, so once you are able to develop the strategies, you now go on to the final stage, which is to implement and monitor the strategies that have been developed. Okay, so basically, this is what the SWOT analysis is made up of. First, you gather information, you create a SWOT matrix, you prioritize and analyze the various factors you have identified. Then you develop strategies that will help you to mitigate your threats, go for your opportunities, and then also improve on your weaknesses. And then you go ahead to implement the strategies and monitor how those the implementation is going. All right, so that if there's the need for you to make any changes, you are able to go ahead and make the necessary changes as and when your monitoring shows that there's the need for any amendments. So like I said earlier, this is how the SWOT matrix looks like. Okay, you have your strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and then the threats. So what this means is that the strength is a positive and adds on to the business. Weaknesses are negatives and takes out of the business. Threats are negatives and can affect the business from outside. Opportunities are positives and can affect the business from outside. So you notice that strengths and weaknesses are internal factors. So you have the internal factors in the first row, right? So strengths and weaknesses in the first row constitute your internal factors. Then on the second row, you have opportunities and threats, which constitutes the external factors. So you have external factors on the second row, internal factors first row, external factors on the second row. Now, if you look at the columns, you notice that strengths, right? You have strengths on the first column, opportunities on the first column. Okay, so strengths and opportunities are positives and they can add on to the business. And then you have weaknesses and threats, which are negatives and can take out of the business. All right. So basically, today we have looked at the resource-based view, which emphasizes the internal resources of an organization and the need to leverage on these internal resources for a competitive advantage on the market. And then we also said that for every organization to be able to succeed on the market in the long term, they should be able to have some core competencies, which comprise the internal resources that we spoke about. So you have tangible resources, intangible resources, and then the human resources, which make up the core competencies. And these are very important if the organization wants to be successful in the long term. Okay. Then we also discussed the SWOT analysis, which integrates both internal and external evaluations for strategic planning. Okay. So if you are performing a scan of the internal environment, it is very necessary to combine both the resource-based view and the SWOT analysis because they give a holistic approach to the development of strategy, right? So what we are supposed to do is to develop a SWOT matrix for the various businesses that we have come up with. Okay, so you develop a SWOT matrix. You have seen how the SWOT matrix looks like. You are to develop a SWOT matrix for your business, and this will be presented in class. Please note, it is a SWOT matrix. I want to see the matrix, right? So I don't think each person should go past 1 page. All the work should be limited to 1 page, right? If you have any question, feel free to put the question on our page and it will be answered, all right? I look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you all very much, and we'll meet again for our next lesson. Bye-bye.